right, so it looks like it is officially 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so I guess we will get started. First of all, folks, if you've never been here before, never been to this channel before, I'm Dust Moret. I've been commentating CS since about 2007, CSGO since beta. I commentate matches on this channel as well as do this show called The Hype, where I try to give you guys some insight on some of the pro players in the scene as well as some of the other prominent community members. I hope in the future to have other people on here as well besides players such as, you know, other commentators or writers or maybe league owners or admins or just this whatever. So I'm just trying to kind of create something that I thought the scene was missing. You have podcasts, but that focuses kind of on Europe. So we didn't really have a North American show recently, at least, that kind of, you know, talked about CSGO from North American perspective, talked about things of that nature. So that's kind of what I've decided to do with the show. So in today's episode, which is the 9th episode, you can catch all my previous episodes on my YouTube if you want. I've interviewed people such as Hiko, Sean Gares, Adren, Nothing, all kinds of guys. But honestly, Shroud here, or Emmy Clips, whatever you know him as, he has been like one of the most requested people on my show from viewers and such. And I felt now was the time to bring him on the show. It only seemed fitting. You know, he got his sub button not too long ago on Twitch TV. His team is looking like they're about to make it to ESEA LAN, so he's about to reach kind of a whole new chapter in his competitive career in Counter-Strike. So it seemed like now is the perfect time to have him on. So first of all, Shroud, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to those of people out there that may not know who you are?
Well, as you said, I'm Shroud. I just made it to Invite, which is legit. Went from XTS to Mediocre Gamers, and now probably going to make LAN, and my stream's Emma Clips TV. I mean, Emma Clips.
Yeah, just Emma Clips. Yeah.
That's
the Twitter handle, though, so if you guys want to follow him up on Twitter.
It gets confusing a little bit.
All right, so what I thought we would do to start off the show is I think we would just talk about some news going on around the community right now. And then from there, it's going to turn into like a more personal interview where I'm just asking you questions and finding out more about you as a player and a streamer and all that good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So news topics, first off, first one I had bulleted was the LANs that we have in North America. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a preview of what's going on this summer in North America. This weekend coming up, so that's May 3rd through 4th if I'm not mistaken, we have SoCal Revival taking place in Southern California, and there's a lot of good teams and players that are going to be there. From what I understand, a lot of iBuyPower is going to be there. I think Complexity is supposed to be there. The Reliable Gaming is going to be there with kind of a mix of players, and there's all kinds of other people going as well, community members that you guys are going to be familiar with from streaming and stuff like that. So it's going to be a great event. It's going to be streamed by Jimmy Wizenhunt over at twitch.tv/Wizenhunt. He did a phenomenal job. He casted, I think, like 20-something hours in a row the last SoCal Revival LAN. He's definitely a trooper, and he's obviously a very good commentator with lots of experience. And he and the guys over at that LAN center, I think, are going to do a phenomenal job this weekend. Definitely check that out over at Wizenhunt's channel. Also taking place this next weekend at the exact same time is Iron Gaming, who is doing their LAN in Toledo, Ohio. This is one of, I guess, 3 LAN stops they'll have this summer. They're also doing another stop in Chattanooga as well as Atlanta and then Austin, Texas. So they basically have 4 qualifier LANs and then a finals event in Austin, and apparently at that event they're going to be giving away 25 grand in prize money. A lot of the pro teams won't be in the regional stops. They won't come in until the finals in Austin, which is towards the end of July. So be on the lookout for that. You also have the $10,000 tournament taking place in Las Vegas at the beginning of July. That a lot of good teams and players will be at, from what I understand. And then, of course, you have Fragdelphia 2 in Philadelphia, which takes place at the exact same time as ESEA LAN, which is at the end of June. That's the 27th to the 29th. And then you have Tampa Esports. Apparently, it's going to have a LAN in July at some point. Apparently, there's a LAN in Boston, AVG LAN or something like that.
How do you know all this?
I'm just aware, dude. I'm just aware.
Like,
and then,
the only thing I know is the SoCal.
Yeah.
Like, keep going.
So I think I hit all of them for the most part. Like I said, Tampa Esports hasn't even been confirmed yet. And I just heard about this LAN in Boston called AVG LAN. Apparently, it's like kind of a smaller event. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so the point is, like, the reason why I'm telling all this is, for one, if you are in North America, I would recommend you getting involved in one of these LAN events if you can, because it would help the scene out a lot. It's great to finally see some grassroots efforts going on and stuff like that. But not only that, I just kind of want to get your response, because, I mean, you've been in CSGO pretty much since its conception, Shroud. What do you think about the fact that we're finally starting to see a lot of events in North America? I mean, how does that make you feel about the game and the progress that we're making?
Well, it's great and all, but like, I don't know. Like, I only got the SoCal one. All the other ones you kind of mentioned, I had no idea about. So, I mean, once the big ones start coming out, which is going to be pretty crazy, but like those small ones don't really matter right now unless the people, live close by. So I'm not going to be going to any of those, like the Boston one that you said. I mean, it's great that we're seeing a lot more, but there needs to be like a bigger prize pool, in my opinion. That's going to happen. It will slowly.
Right. I think it. I mean, the Las Vegas land, the $10,000 is obviously probably like attractive enough to get people to want to go. I'm sure the $25,000 land in Austin, Texas, is probably going to be attractive enough to make people want to go. Of course, ESEA LAN's like closed off. That's a lot of prize money, but it's kind of closed off to the teams that qualify through the online process. But I guess I get your point, right? Like, there's probably not people going to be traveling from Canada to go play Tampa Esports or people
it's pretty
traveling.
expensive.
Yeah, I get your point there, but I think that this is at least a start.
It's really good. It is, yeah.
So hopefully, with these smaller lands, like I said, hopefully it will get embraced by their local communities or maybe people who live maybe within 8 hours or something who are willing to make a drive or take a flight. It's not just about competing for money. It's summertime, so it's like a chance to vacation. I mean, why not vacation in Tampa for a week or something and land while you're there, or just whatever. So it's kind of that regard too. But I think it's personally awesome. I would say that you made a good point, though, kind of indirectly, like you had never heard of a lot of these events, and I think that is kind of a problem. I think SoCal was pretty well advertised on ESEA as well as HLTV and through Wiz and Hunt and these different people. So I think they did a pretty good job about promoting themselves, advertising themselves. Obviously, RGN has also advertised the Las Vegas LAN pretty well through ESEA and HLTV and stuff like that. But Tampa really hasn't come out with anything yet, like official statements. So we're still waiting on that, so that's kind of an issue, I guess. The AVG LAN in Boston, the only way that I heard about that was because I just happened to be watching Launder's stream, like him doing his jump map stuff, and he mentioned it on stream, and I was like, oh, I had no idea, so I kind of like looked it up, and then I knew what it was at that point. But yeah, and even the Iron Gaming thing seems like it hasn't been promoted as much as it should be. And so that could be an issue, that these things aren't getting promoted as much as they should, or maybe they're not marketing them well enough. I mean, do you feel that that's kind of a concern? Maybe they're not marketing it well enough, and is that the issue why people don't know about it? Or
yeah, I mean, usually, yeah, because like, I mean, if they posted it on ESEA, that'd be great because that's how SoCal did it. I'm pretty sure, right?
Right.
They posted it there first, and then everyone kind of clicked on the link, talked about it, then went to another website where you could just like post it on ESEA and then it'll redirect you to their website. That'd be kind of cool, because ESEA is like the main NA kind of league. So that's what I think they should do.
Right on. So that kind of just highlights the North American LAN, so I'm going to move on to the next topic now. And the next topic I had on my list of things to talk about was some of these Invite roster shakeups and some of the drama that's been going on. You're obviously kind of a part of this, but your roster transaction happened a pretty while long ago, and we'll talk about that later in your actual, more personal interview. But I guess the biggest drama that came out of this was the fact that Ronin's or whatever lost their sponsor.
That was crazy.
They went through a crazy process. They apparently mutinied Hades off the team. Then shortly afterwards, Mossbeck got cut. And now they're playing with, I believe, Monty and Naf, and then it's Daps, Juvenile, and Wabbit. So basically this roster is almost, the only two remaining members now are Wabbit and Juvenile from the original 5 that they had coming into the season. Of course, I know the whole Cut thing was something that they didn't want to lose. Cut had to leave or whatever and go to Vietnam, I believe it was, for a while, and now he's back. But once he saw that Hades got mutinied from the team, he decided to quit as well, and I think I think Ronan's initial plan before they picked up Monty was to use Cud again as a replacement for Hades, and then Cud wound up leaving the team, and then they got kind of put in, I guess, a shitty situation, but I guess they kind of dug their hole and got buried in it. I don't really know. What's your thoughts on this whole situation with this team? Any thoughts at all?
Um, I mean, I don't really care too much about it. The only thing I could kind of say is that Monty was a great pickup. I just don't know anything about the inside of that team. I don't know what was happening. I don't know what happened between Hades, what happened between Mossback. I don't know what happened at all. So like, it sucks, but I just don't know enough to say anything. All I know is Monty's nuts and he's a good pickup. Because I was 10-manning, he's pretty fucking good.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I guess that's a good point to make. And then, of course, Reliable Gaming, apparently Slip was removed from the team. He's now playing in Main. And I assume they're replacing him with Freakazoid, though I don't know if they've played any matches since Slip left. But I think that's what the plan is that Freakazoid is going to step back in and play, which Freakazoid is nuts. And on LAN, he's even more nuts. So if Reliable Gaming happens to make it to LAN, then Freakazoid is a solid player to have on your side in that regard, as far as just like raw fragging power. So, I mean, what do you think about this? Was this a good move for Reliable Gaming? Bad move? What do you think?
Oh, I think that was a really good move. I mean, like, Freakazoid is really good, but you're a little late. You know, there's only 4 matches left, and they're already 5-7, so they have to really work the all.
Yeah, they would have to win out and go 9-7, or at least, I mean, I guess maybe if they went 8-8, there'd be like a tiebreaker situation where they could find themselves in a spot, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But
yeah, like their first match, like coming up, is against us, or is it? No, yeah. So I mean, if they beat us and then they carry on with that momentum, that's going to be crazy. So they actually could make it, but it's going to be rough for them.
Right. And then I guess outside of that, the only other real roster changes is, of course, way earlier on this season, the Reliable Gaming Canada team, originally now Team Stream Team, definitely went through some drastic roster changes. You know, Dats left to go to Ronan's. You know, I think Statutory 8 is like the only player that's still playing because they picked up Adren and Pex, A2Z, and Polly. I guess McNutty has kind of stuck around and played with them a little bit as well. But other than that, you know, most like 3 of the members for sure are like completely gone, and on the other teams are not playing anymore. Period. And this kind of sucked because they got voted into Invite, right? Like through the polling process, and so a lot of people were upset that, you know, they got the vote and then they wound up dying like pretty shortly afterwards in Invite. What were your thoughts on this whole process with that team? Like, what do you think about it?
To be honest, I don't even really know what happened. I don't remember the lineup I don't remember the lineup from the beginning. It happened so fast.
Yeah, I mean the initial lineup, I want to say, well, it was the lineup they went to ETS with, right? Which was Daps, McNutty, I think SND, or is it SND? Is that his? Yeah, I think it's SND.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying not to get
SNK.
him SNK. That's what I get that confused with Reliable Gaming guy.
Yeah.
So it was SNK, Daps, McNutty, and then I think Statutory Ape, and then they had one other guy. I can't remember who it was. Whoever it was got, I think, replaced by Glorans after ETS was over, and then that team just completely fell apart afterwards, and now only Ape and McNutty is kind of on and off playing with the team. And then, of course, Adren leaving by Power, he goes over to play with this team kind of for fun. He joins up with Pex, who's an old teammate of his from Dynamic, of course. And then A2Z, or Armin, joined the team as well. Not A2Z. Or he did, and then Polly's also on the roster as well. So they kind of have like a 6-man lineup, it seems like. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess a lot of people just had issues with it because they were upset that the team they voted for kind of like got hijacked basically by like a whole new roster almost. But
Yeah.
they've actually been playing somewhat decent. Like they took Complexity to overtime. They've gotten a few wins with the new line. It's almost like this new line's actually been more successful than the previous one. So I don't know. Maybe it is for the better.
Yeah, I mean, they won't make it to LAN, but hopefully they'll just win out from here. It's not. I don't think they'll make it even if they win out, but they'll prevent some people from going. Maybe, like maybe if they beat Reliable. Actually, there's only iBuyPower, Reliable, and us, so it's not going to matter too much. Only Reliable. And what was I going to say? Who was the other teams in the poll for that?
I believe one of the teams that was in the poll was Mediocre Gamers. Actually, your team was in the poll, and they actually came in anyway to replace Frost old team that dropped out of Invite. So in all actuality, your team wouldn't have even been an Invite this season had it not have been for the fact that Frost team dropped out and your team was second place on the poll.
Hmm.
You're like, oh,
Wow.
okay, wow.
Okay.
And then the third team on the poll was it BDS, Black Dragon Society, the main team
Yeah,
that's
I
still
think
in
it
main
was.
right now? I think they changed names. I think they're Mythic now is their new name. I guess they got sponsored by that organization or they just changed their name. Not really sure which, but that was the third team on the poll.
Mhm.
So your team wound up making an invite anyway. So I guess a lot of people are just saying maybe we should have gotten Mythic in there instead of the Canadian team that fell apart, so to speak. I don't know.
I
Um,
I don't think Mythic would do too great either, though, to be honest. So I don't know, because I don't think they're doing that great in CEVO. They made playoffs though. I'm pretty sure, right? I don't actually know. I think they made playoffs, but
I'm not 100% sure.
after watching a couple matches and playing Mythic, they're nothing too crazy. I don't know how they'd compete in Invite.
Right on. So with that being said, the last lineup change was actually revolving around you and Exertus, but we're going to get to that later, so I'll kind of skip over that for now. Next news item I had is this issues with that some people seem to be having with DDoSing, and some people kind of tying it to betting and CS:GO Lounge. So, for example, we had Guardian from Navi, who made a big statement about how like skins and betting and Go Lounge was like ruining the game. I know that from personal experience, it seems like some of the ESEA Invite matches has also suffered from DDoSing at times as well. So with that being said, I guess the question that I would ask you is I mean, Go Lounge has helped viewership across the board for these matches. It's added a whole new player investment into watching the game because they want to see how their bet's going to do, basically. So it kind of adds like a whole new incentive to want to watch the game and see how it goes. So it's definitely increased viewership. Like this channel, for instance, I had like 7,500 viewers on here one night, and there's no way in hell that would have happened had it not have been for the fact that people were betting on the game. So I guess what I'm getting at is at the end of the day, when you weigh the pros and cons of like skins and Go Lounge and betting and all that good stuff, do you think it's really worth it to have the increased viewership and have the bets at the cost of, I guess like community immaturity and DDoSing and things of that nature? I mean, where do you stand on Go Lounge, good or bad?
I think it's good personally. I mean, I don't really mind the immaturity too much. It kind of gets annoying sometimes because people are like, you lost the match, whatever. You lost my skins, blah blah blah, and then they get upset. The DDoSing's pretty bad. That sucks. But at this point in time, you should be able to prevent yourself from getting DDoS. Like that match against iBuyPower with us. I don't know how they even got DDoSed. It's really easy to not get DDoSed. I don't know if they accept every friend request or they don't go offline on Steam. All they have to do is go offline. Like that's it. Maybe they have a static IP, so someone got their IP like a really long time ago. In my case, I can change my IP like with just a restart of the router. So that's the only problem, the DDoS. But the viewership is great. So
All right,
I
that's a
think
good
it's a
point.
good thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because this is what happened is because I know there was a lot of public statements made about the ESEA match of the week with you guys and iBuyPower, and apparently, iBuyPower also had issues when they played against, I guess it was Reliable Gaming, and that actually that was streamed on the ESEA channel too, but it wasn't like the match of the week event like we did with you guys and iBuyPower. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is like the way I've always seen it is this: is if the server gets DDoSed or GoTV gets DDoSed, that's kind of on the league, right? I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's like a problem that they have to take care of and fix, like if their servers are getting hit. But that wasn't the case in both instances. Well, maybe the Reliable Gaming match, maybe that was a server. I don't really know for sure. But I know, for instance, with you guys, with the Mediocre Gamers iBuyPower matchup, it was, I guess, what Swag got was personally
Yeah.
getting DDoSed. And
And I
then
think there was one more. I think it might have been
it might have been Skadoodle
it
or
was
ACK.
yeah,
I'm
or
not really sure
AZK.
which.
I can't remember. But yeah, like you can prevent that from happening if you
Right.
really care. I just don't think they now. I think they care, but before maybe not. They're just like, we haven't gotten DDoS before, but now since they have, I
Right.
think they might clear their list of friends and then go offline and yada yada yada.
Right. But I guess I guess the point I was trying to make is that um like it seemed like it's on the individual at that point, right? Like if you're personally getting DDoS, but it just seemed like there was these unrealistic expectations that somehow ESEA would help protect you from getting DDoS and like things like that. And this is not just ESEA in general. This is like leagues across the border having this issue. And so I guess the question is you did make the point. You did make the point that got that it's up to you, like to go offline and not accept people
Hmm.
and things like that. I mean, do you feel like maybe there's just not enough awareness out there about how to protect yourself, or is it that at a certain point at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do, and if someone wants to do something like that, there's not much you can do about it? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's just I don't think it's the awareness. I think anyone can get you no matter what. Even if you do everything you can, if they try hard enough, they can probably get you. So that's what I think it is. Like maybe they're already doing what they can, going offline and whatnot.
Right.
But the DDoSer still got them somehow. Who knows? I don't know how to do it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate, and like I said, it's not something that's just this ESEA. It's also happening in big international matches. Like I said, the whole situation with Navi and Guardian that took place.
Hmm.
And so it seems like there's kind of mixed opinions about whether or not it's worth it. If it's going to lead to issues like that. Because I mean, if the server does get DDoS, I mean, there's really not a whole lot that can be done, and except for like hiding the server IP better and stuff like that. But the thing is, the problem is you also run into is Go TVs. You want those to be public so people can watch them, but then people, because it's public, people can hit them basically if they wanted to and cause issues with viewing the game. So I don't know, man. It's just kind of like a tough situation. But I get your point, basically. I think you made a good point, and hopefully people will kind of learn from that.
Hmm.
So the last news item I had before we got into your personal interview was I don't. How much do you follow like the international scene in general? I feel like based on your stream you don't a whole
No,
lot, but
I
okay.
I really don't. It's because of my time schedule that's all fucked up. I wake up, around now usually. I usually
Hmm.
wake up later. I usually wake up later than now. Um, I practice, play whatever matches we have, and then I stream until around 10 in the morning. Go to bed, do the same thing. So I don't really have any time, I guess, to watch anything or to follow it or anything. Maybe it's because I don't really care too much. I don't bet skins at all. I just don't like betting. It's not my thing. So yeah, I don't follow it at all. Unfortunately, I used to, but not right now.
Right. So I mean, do you look at like the standings or like match results and stuff
No,
like that?
no,
God, man, you're
nothing.
just giving me zero to
I
work
look
with right
I
now,
look at nothing. Yeah.
man. So do you know what happened at Copenhagen Games at all? Do you know who won
No.
Copenhagen Games?
Uh,
Oh God.
hold on.
Oh
Hold
no.
on. I got this. I got this.
Oh no.
Hold on.
Come on. I could
It
feel
was
it.
it was Nip, right?
Yes.
And second was Virtus Pro, I think. I don't
Yes.
know. I'm pretty sure that was it. I didn't watch it. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay, so here's my point. It's based on the fact that NIP won Copenhagen Games. We've established this fact. Did you watch Katowice at all? Or know who won Katowice?
Mm. I
You
watched it a
do.
bit. I did. Yeah, I did watch that
Do you
actually.
know who won that?
Virtus Pro.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're making progress here, like one step at a time. So with that being said, and with I guess you already know about Titan's recent roster moves with
Hmm.
Kenny S joining for Shocks. So with that all being said, let's just kind of put that all together, right? I think it's pretty safe to say that NIP is back to being number one in the world. Would you agree with that, or disagree with that?
Um. Uh. Yeah, I guess. I mean, Nip and VP is kind of up there. It goes back and forth. I think
Yeah, and I think
anything can happen.
right. I think between Katowice and some of their recent results, I think Virtus Pro has like legitimately said, "Hey, we are like a top 3, top 4 team in the world." They seem to be pretty good. And then, of course, you have Dignitas that has been improving as well. And then with Titan, I guess it's a big question mark right now because we haven't seen him really play since
Yeah.
since their roster transaction. Which, speaking of which, it's time to get into the next part of this whole thing. This is the transition about Titan. So, we do know that Kenny S came in for Shox because apparently Shox wanted to step down due to the fact that I guess he wasn't adjusting well to the gaming house life and living with the team and practicing on like a daily schedule where he was practicing hours and hours a day. And I think part of it also deals with the fact that they weren't really getting the results, I don't think, in maybe his head to justify the amount of time that they were putting in and living together. And I guess he has like a girlfriend and friends that he doesn't get to visit or hang out with a lot because, he's just focused on practicing and living in this gaming house with the rest of his team. And like I said, the results, like he wasn't getting a return on his investment. The results weren't there to justify it maybe for him. So he steps away, and then Titan picks up Kenny S, right? And for me, that's kind of weird because you already have an opper. Why pick up another opper? Of course, Kenny S is maybe a better opper than Smith. He's like one of the best oppers in the game. Like he's an impact player in his fragging ability. But at the same time, there's also that weird air about it. Like, oh, this team cut me about a year ago, and now all of a sudden they want me back. So there has to kind of be this awkward environment maybe where like for you, like if Mediocre Gamers cut you tomorrow, but then they wanted to pick you up a few months from now again, I mean, that would create like this kind of awkward situation, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I guess that was their best maybe available option of all the French players they could have picked from, or French-speaking players they could have picked from. Now that they got forced into a situation where they had to find somebody, I think they would have much rather kept Shox. Shox wanted to leave, but so that forces you to make a decision. You could kind of compare this to Complexity being forced to make a decision when Swag left. So I guess my point is, I mean, I guess any player they would have picked up was going to be a downgrade from Shox. But I mean, how do you think they'll still be a top contending team after this change?
They'll definitely be up there. I don't see them winning anything. I don't see them being first in anything. They'll still do good. Like I'm pretty sure they could still go to ESEA LAN with that 5, right? Can they? I don't know
We're
about
about
that.
to talk about that. That's the big
Yeah?
news from today.
Okay. Okay. Well, like they'll do good at ESEA LAN. They'll probably maybe even beat us.
They won't be at ESEA LAN.
Oh,
That is
well.
the news.
Okay. All right. Well.
I'm about to educate you, man. You need to get on ESEA News every morning or something, man, or HLTV. But here we go.
I'm a gamer.
So here's the big news, right? So here's the big announcement. So HLTV made a post earlier today. I believe it was earlier today. Maybe it was like late last night and I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure it was earlier today. And it is Titan makes a statement on HLTV that basically says we were forced to exit ESEA. So I'm not going to read you the entire statement that Titan made. You can read this over at hltv.org or on eseanews.com. But basically, to summarize what Titan has said, their manager, which I don't know if his name's pronounced like Nyack or Niak, or I never could pronounce his like handle or nickname or whatever. But he basically says like, today's a sad day for Titan because we've been forced to leave ESEA this season. Basically, the reason for this is because they were in contention for the team for ESEA LAN, of course. I think they're ranked like number 2 or number 3 in the league right now. But apparently, obviously, Shox left the team. They picked up Kenny S, but this took place after ESEA's roster lock that they have, right? So I don't know if you guys ever get on ESEA or for you as an ESEA player yourself, Shroud, you know that for the past couple of weeks there's been like a little countdown clock on the ESEA website that basically said you had this many days until roster lock or whatever, and that's been up for about the past like week or two. Anyway, so unfortunately, Titan's roster situation with Kenny S joining in place of Shox took place literally hours, I think, or maybe the day after the roster lock took place for ESEA. So I think people who kind of did the math in their head probably already figured out that this was going to be an issue as soon as it happened, basically. Like, for example, I was talking to the ESEA staff about it the day that it happened, and I was like, well, what is this going to mean? because the rosters are locked. So what is this going to mean for Titan and ESEA LAN? And at that point, they were like, I'm not sure yet. We're going to have to talk about it. And that's apparently what's happened. Apparently, Titan and ESEA had conversations for a while. And essentially, the conclusion is that ESEA was not going to allow the roster change because it takes place after the roster lock. So I guess they were just following their own rules, basically, to a T, not making any exceptions. And basically, so Titan releases this statement on HLTV, basically saying, we're not against the fact that there's roster locks. Like, we think that, that's actually a good idea. But their big point is that we need to have some type of, he said there needs to be a harmonization between all major tournament schedules in order for the roster lock type rules to be consistent across the board for these major tournaments, because obviously Titan plays in a bunch of different events. They're in ESL, Star Series, Face It, Frag Bite, Fnatic Frag Out. You could just go down the list. There's so many different tournaments that the guys are involved in, and this is their first roster change as a team in I guess a year. Well, and that was whenever they brought in Shocks for Kenny S. That's the last time they actually made a roster change. So basically, at the end of the day, what they made this statement just saying that they think that ESEA's rules are archaic and that it's kind of ridiculous that they basically, because the LAN's 2 months from now, right? It's at the end of June. So they're basically saying that, locking the roster 2 months before the actual event seems a little bit, a little bit overdone, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of their argument. Like I said, you can read their full argument. I don't want you to think that I'm selling their argument short. I'm really not. I'm just trying to hit the main points of their argument. You can read the full response either on ESEA News or HLTV. Titan's long novel post basically is on there. So then, of course, later on in the day, which actually just got posted roughly about a couple of hours ago, ESEA releases their response to Titan's response, basically. So then you have another novel of information that comes out. And so basically, from what I understand, the response from ESEA comes straight down from people such as Torball and LP Kane, and then Shooter, who is the league commissioner. So this went all the way up the chain. It wasn't like it was just some random league admin or something. This goes all the way up to the main people on the ESEA staff and the ownership of the ESEA itself. And basically their response, once again, you can read it in full on ESEA News or HLTV, but basically they said that, the roster lock happens on April 27th, and basically Titan came to us after the roster lock to make the player change, and we denied their request. Essentially it says that, Titan claims they were unaware of the roster rules, whereas ESEA claims that they should have been aware of them, or they should have made themselves or familiarized themselves with the rules. Like I already mentioned, the roster lock was, communicated on the top of every page on ESEA.net for the past week or so, letting a countdown timer of when the roster lock was going to take place. Apparently they just, like I said, had talks with Titan over the past couple of days, and Titan wanted an exception to be made so that they could still make the event. And ESEA basically said no. ESEA claims that Titan basically let it be known that they knew that this roster change was going to take place, and they had been discussing the change ever since Copenhagen Games. And ESEA was like, well, if you would have contacted us then maybe we could have worked with you on confidentially allowing a roster change, since apparently Titan obviously didn't want the news to drop that they were getting rid of Shocks and getting Kenny right after Copenhagen Games. They wanted to kind of wait and talk out amongst themselves more and finalize things contract-wise. You know how it goes. And so that's why Titan didn't release a statement immediately before the roster lock, because they hadn't figured it out yet. But ESEA basically said, well, if they would have came to us, before, and we would have confidentially worked with them to maybe make something happen there. And like I said, you can read this whole argument as much as you want. But at the end of the day, some people are going to say this is stupid. I can't believe this. Why the hell wouldn't ESEA make an exception? Why wouldn't you want Titan to come compete in your event? They're one of the best teams in the world. Don't you want the best LAN possible? Don't you want the best competition there? And that's a great argument. 100%. I can 100% understand that argument. But then there's the other argument on the other side of the coin where people are like, or ESEA and people supporting ESEA's side of the story basically are basically saying, well, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to break their own rules? Don't you want a league to be consistent and follow their rules? Wouldn't there be possible accusations of bias or favoritism if you made an exception for one team, but you haven't made because this has come up before with like North American teams and roster changes and Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source and Go over the past few seasons, even as recent as last season, something like this happened. And ESEA has never made an exception for a roster change, ever. And so it's one of those things is would it have been favoritism if they would have made an exception? Would it have been bias if they would have made an exception? At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Either ESEA stands by their rules, sticks to their guns, and they're consistent with their rules, and you can't call them out on showing favoritism or bias. But then on the other hand, it's like, should ESEA have swallowed their pride, made an exception to make sure that one of the best teams in the world make it to their event and compete in it? Especially since, obviously, you know this yourself, that we've had issues getting European teams to attend ESEA LAN the past couple of seasons. And so this season, ESEA basically increased the prize pool from the bottom. So basically, like, the minimum prize, I think, for a team is like $3,000, and they give you that $3,000 up front to use towards travel expenses. So this was like kind of trying to ensure that this wouldn't happen again, right? That we would have all the ESEA EU teams showing up that qualified. But now all of a sudden we have this issue among us where Titan will not be able to. So I know this is like some of this is new news to you, like you just found this out when I told you. But do you have like any initial reactions or opinions about this situation?
Well, I think it's good that ESEA, did what they did. They're following their own rules. I think it is a little ridiculous that the LAN is like 2 months from now and you still, like, the roster is locked. I think it should be once you play all of your matches, your roster locks. That's what I think, personally. Once you play out completely, you have no matches left, you're going to be moving on to the LAN or not, then your roster locks. I don't think it should lock right now. It's too early. So it's good that ESEA did what they did, but Titan also made a good point saying it's way too early to lock rosters. That's what I think about the whole thing.
Right.
So does that mean there's only going to be 7 teams then?
What I assume is that the next team in line will get invited like they've done in the past. So like, NIP's already obviously probably going to qualify. Like they're so far behind on their matches actually that we're not even really sure who would have qualified anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's just that it's a good chance Titan would have qualified, and that's why it's kind of an issue. But NIP's like number 1 in the league. I think Titan's in the top 4 as well somewhere. Virtus Pro's in the top 4. I think Navi's in the top 4. And then you have like teams like Dignitas and LGB and company that are like on the cusp. So I'm sure that what would happen is NIP will probably make it. Virtus Pro would probably make it, and then teams like Dignitas, Navi, and LGB and stuff like that might be teams that would be invited based on the fact that they're like next in line in the rankings. So at this point, I don't know. Maybe still 4 EU teams do show up. Just not one of them won't be Titan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that might be the case.
And at the end of the day, I know a lot of you guys are wondering why this is kind of like a one-side dominated thing. This is more news stuff. This isn't the actual like interview per se yet. And once it gets to there, then it will be a lot of Shroud and a lot less of me. This is just going over news in the scene right now. And honestly, I think that the best opinion that I read, and this is just like my personal opinion, actually comes from Moses from United 5, and he posted this. And I won't read the whole thing once again for time purposes, but basically Moses labels this a winless situation for both sides. Either ESEA bends the rules and gets accused of the integrity of their policy, or they face criticism like they're receiving right now for not making an exception to allow ESEA LAN to be like higher competition. And that I think that's kind of a good way to put it. I think it was kind of a winless situation. It was kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're in ESEA's position, you either catch flack for showing favoritism, or you catch flack for not allowing this team to compete. And I guess they chose the second option. So yeah, hopefully still 4 EU teams show up. I mean, I think that if NIP, Titan, or excuse me, not Titan, obviously. Like if NIP, VP, Dignitas, and like another good team show up, I think it'll still be a great event. So I don't think it's like this breaks the event now that Titan's not going. I think
No, it won't.
there's still good teams out there that could show up that would still make the LAN good.
It would just suck if they make top four and then only 7 teams go. I think if they make top four, they should just grab the fifth or something because like 7 teams is a big difference from 8. You know, I that's what I think they should do. Maybe Titan just if they, even if they make top four, just grab the next person. That's what I think.
Right.
But who knows?
Well, we'll leave it at that, man. So now it's
Yeah.
time to interview you. This is now your personal interview. So from here on out, I'm going to ask you a question, and then you're just going to answer it, and then we're just going to move along. And I've kind of put this in somewhat chronological order to make it kind of flow as a story, so to speak. So my first question is this, and I hope you don't take offense to this. And I think you've actually read some of these questions already, so you kind of already know what's coming. But to put it plain, like where the hell did you come from, right? Because I know I did some research here, and I was able to find out that you did play in Cal a bit back in the day. I know you played. I don't know if you ever like how high of a level you got in Cal. Like, what was the highest Cal you played in?
I think I am. I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was I am.
Basically, my point is you weren't like an invite or
No,
a pro player
no.
in Cal days. Okay, but then you played ESEA Open for 1.6 like way early on, like for a few matches, and then you played like 3 intermediate Counter-Strike Source matches for one team.
Yeah, so kind of how it works, or it worked.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. Just give me your background. Like, how did you
yeah.
get to how did you get to CS:GO?
Well, I always loved Counter-Strike, right? I've been playing Counter-Strike for years, like probably 10 years. When I was like 9, I was just playing casually, you know, nothing too crazy, pubbing and whatnot. A couple of years later, I I think I made a team. That team was made by me and like a pub server. You know, we just got like 5 people. We played some seasons. We played a lot of Cal Open. If you look at my ID, I think I have like 30 Cal Open seasons. I just played Cal Open over and over and over. It wasn't always on the same team. I just kept like I was just playing with friends. I did not care about moving up. I didn't take the game seriously. I just kind of played. Then we moved up. I played IM once. That's it. I don't know why we never played an ESEA. Like we never played a single season in ESEA. I don't know why.
Right.
That one season that we did, or it wasn't the same people, but we played one season. It was just with some real life friends. Not much happened. Just trolled around, and then I quit CS. Maybe a year or 2 down the road, my friend was like, "Hey, come play Source. Like it's fun. I swear. Like it's the new game. Counter Strike's not dead." Because I thought Counter Strike was dead. Because like I don't know, none of my friends were playing. No one was playing anymore. Everyone moved on to Source. I stopped playing. So I was like, all right, I'll try out Source. I joined their team, played a little bit, and then just I was like, it's not that good. And then I just quit again. Go came out. Then that same friend that told me to play Source, he's just like, dude, go is good, man. Like I'll buy you it. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll try it. I tried it and I was like, go is actually not that bad. I don't mind it. I can play this. It's actually a decent game. And then just went on from there. Played one open season with them, with some friends. I think I played another one after that. And then just kind of took it more seriously, moved up, went main, practiced harder, went invite, and then practiced even harder. So that's pretty much how it went.
Right. So I guess my question then would be is like I'm trying to think how to phrase this. How did you go from, open like almost your whole life to being as solid of a player as you are in most people's eyes and from what most people can watch from watching your stream or whatever with like, most people say you're like a human aimbot sometimes, like you have like really sick aim when you're DMing or playing like your 10-mans and scrims and even matches at times as well. How did you go from, amateur player that doesn't take it very seriously, maybe was nothing special at the game, to, having like this reputation or this regard from a lot of the community that you're like this amazing player? Like how did you go from like square one to like the talent you have right now?
Well, I was always, pretty good at FPS games. Like I was pretty good in 1.6 back when I played. I played other FPS games. I think I played some COD as well. I was always generally good at FPS. And then when Go came out, I just dedicated myself to it. I put way more time into it, and then it just got better. The more you practice, the better you'll get. So I was always just generally good at FPS. It's just how much time you put into, you know, practicing and whatnot, and that's what kind of gave me better aim and whatnot. Like I DM probably like 2 hours a day, if not more sometimes,
Right.
and I did that all the time. When I got to main is when I started DMing all the time,
Hmm.
and then I just kept going. So 2 hours a day from main to invite. It definitely gets you better.
Right. So at the same time that you're like progressing through CS:GO, so like when you're playing open and like maybe when you hit your first main level team, you also were one of the first people in North America, at least, to stream on an almost daily basis your point of view of playing CS:GO. Obviously, now there's a lot of other people
Hmm.
who do it in North America. You know, you have your Hiko, your Nothing, your Adren. You know, you have all kinds of other people out there doing it now. But you were actually, honestly, I think maybe you and Michael 3D and some of the other Curse guys, like the first people from North America to be like, you know what, I'm going to stream on a pretty regular basis here. And of course, a lot of those other people have faded away, but I think you're like the longest standing North American streamer for CS. Like, I could be wrong. There might be somebody I'm
Hmm.
forgetting. But I think you were definitely one of the first to do it. Um, what made you do it, first of all?
To be honest, it's gonna sound a little weird, but it was because of Summit. I was kind of watching his stream, saw that how many viewers he got, saw how cool his chat was. I subbed to him myself probably around 8 months ago, and around 8 months ago is when I kind of started streaming, if not more. It could have been 9 or 10. Um, but yeah, I saw what he was doing, how much time he puts into it, and the reward for it. And I was like, you know what, I could probably do that. I was like, I could do that. So I just upgraded my PC, got some better parts, and then I tried it out. It was really rough at first. For the first, I would say two to 3 months, I had maybe 10 viewers for 2 months straight, and that's really depressing.
It
having
is. Yes,
having
I
10
know.
viewers for 2 months, 3 months, it's just like, come on, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
And then it just slowly grows. I don't know what happened. It just slowly went to 30, then 40, then 50, and then 100, and just slowly got better. So as it improved and more viewers came, it just made me want to do it even more. So then I just kept going with it, and that's kind of how I started. Basically, because of Summit.
Right, and Summit, like, obviously was like an original CS:GO streamer too, but I guess he obviously focused a lot on War Z was the big game that got him big. Now he does CS still, but he also plays like DayZ and Resident Evil and all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, he's also one of the kind of OG like streamers for CS and games like that. But so this will be my question then: is that I kind of got an idea of why you started, but why do you think you've been so successful with it? Um, do you think it has to do with you as an entertainer, you and your skill level? Like, what do you think has contributed most to your growth on your stream?
I think it's more just the skill level. I don't think I'm entertaining at all. I think I'm pretty boring. Um, some people like my stream because it's really, chill. I don't rage. I don't talk shit. I don't do any of that. So some people like it because it's kind of chill.
Hmm.
I play music. I kind of talk to the chat, but I'm not really too entertaining. I'm not gonna yell. I'm not gonna go crazy. Some people like that stuff. So I think they just like it because of the skill and just chill environment. That's pretty much about it.
So with that being said, what are your future plans with your stream? I mean, how long do you think this wave will last? Like, how long do you think that you'll be doing this? I mean, I guess for streamers in general, no one really knows when the wave crashes, right? Like, no
Yeah.
one really knows like the lifetime of the stream. I mean, there's some guys out there who are pretty old who stream and who are still very popular. So maybe it is kind of a lucrative career that you can enjoy at the same that could have the same time span as like a more traditional career. Maybe not. Like who knows when your popularity fades away and all of a sudden you can't rely on it
Yeah.
anymore. But my question would be is like barring something happening and your channel kind of tanking in viewers and whatnot. What are your future plans for your stream? Like what do you think you're gonna do with it?
Um, to be honest, I don't really have any future plans. I'm just gonna keep streaming CS until I'm done with CS. I don't think I'll be done with CS anytime soon, so I doubt the stream's going to end.
Hmm.
Um, Even if I'm done with CS, I'm still going to stream. I'm not going to stop playing video games. I just probably won't stream as much. Um, so yeah, like you said, like it could happen at any time. It could just crash. I'll get no viewers. It'll be depressing and be like, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. That could happen. It happens to a lot of streamers. So, I think it'll still go on for a while. At least a couple of years, probably. I don't think CS is going to die anytime soon.
We hope not. But I mean, here's my question: are you already looking at other games, like
To
for
stream or to play? Like,
to stream? I mean, I know you've streamed what ESO a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, I stream every kind of new game that's out. Something that I'm interested in. So, for example, Watch Dogs is coming out in like a month. I'm going to be streaming that. That game looks awesome. Any new game that's coming out that looks fun, I'll be streaming it. So it's not like I'm only playing CS. I'll swap over to these new games that come out because I want to play them, not because of the stream, just because I want to play them. But besides that, I don't really have any other games which are kind of fun to me. I even got bored of ESO. It's just it takes too much time to level in that game. So I can't balance an MMO and being good at Counter-Strike. It just doesn't work.
Right. So with that being said, I mean, do you have anything else going for you besides streaming? Like, do you have other hobbies? Do you go to school, have another job? Like, what else is going on with your life besides streaming that you do on a regular basis that's outside of like the gaming world, maybe?
Yeah, so this is one of the easiest questions to answer because I got nothing.
Damn.
Like no job, no school, hobbies, not really. I mean, I rarely go outside. The only time I go outside is when my girlfriend's home. She's home now. I think she's busy this week. But yeah, that's the only time I really go outside is when my girlfriend's home from
So
university.
you're just like literally the
Yeah.
stereotypical basement nerd.
Yep,
Do
exactly.
you live with your parents?
Yes.
Perfect. I mean,
Just
you
my
got
dad.
it. Oh, okay. You got it nailed though.
Yep.
I mean, do you have any ambitions? Like,
Nope.
no. You
Nope.
just
I got nothing.
so you're
I
just
have
gonna
no
ride.
idea.
You're just gonna
Yep.
ride the streaming wave as long as you can. That's gonna be it.
I got nothing, man. Like once I'm done streaming, if I lose viewers, I'm fucked.
All right. I'm glad we got that established. So
That's about it, man.
yeah. So basically, Shroud could use your support, I guess, in a huge way in that regard to try to make it happen. I actually made the decision to go full-time streaming this summer, and you can check out that one if you want. But yeah. So I kind of know where you're at in that regard. It's kind of tough.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's get away from streaming. We can maybe return to it. Let's just get focused on your actual competitive career in CS:GO. So obviously, you played open for a bit, and you got into main. At what point did you notice that you had a good chance of like breaking out as a pro player in the game? Like, what was there like a particular moment or a particular time period where you just kind of felt hey, I can do this? I mean, what do you think?
I think it was in Maine,
Okay.
basically. Um, in open, not much happened. I didn't do too great. I don't know what was going on in open. Maybe I wasn't playing enough. But once I made main, I all of a sudden got really good. I don't know what happened. Maybe better players, probably more dedication. I don't know what it was. But then once I made main, I started doing really good. Um, I did good in main. I got into these 10 mans. I was doing 10 mans every single day, playing with a lot of good players at the time, kind of impressing them. Sometimes they thought I cheated, yada, yada, yada. So I think it was in Maine when that happened, when everything just kind of like went good. And I was like, you know what? I could probably be pretty good at this game. It's definitely in Maine. So,
Right, so I remember was this the slow motion lineup when you were playing with Devo and all those
yeah.
guys? I mean, what
think so.
happened with that team? Like, why do you think that team didn't progress better? Was there like a particular reason that made you kind of leave, or?
Um, they they didn't want to take CS seriously. They just played.
Hmm.
They just played for fun. Devo already had he had a really good job. Dumore was in school. I think me and JDM were the only real ones who wanted to take it seriously. Even AK, I'm pretty sure he has a solid job as well. Me and JDM were pretty much the only gamers there, and we wanted to progress. So that's kind of why I left.
Right.
Stuck around, and then Exertus hit me up, and then kind of the same thing happened. We'll talk about that later,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, we're gonna get there. So at the same time, so this is before you joined Exertus, if I'm not 100% mistaken. You went to ETS, right? Was that before Exertus or
I was on
after?
Exertus.
You're
I was
already
on.
on Exertus. Okay.
Mhm.
Which is fine because we're about to talk about Exertus in just a second as well. But basically, at this point in time, you're already receiving lots of flack, right? And you probably still do from certain people in the professional community as well as just certain random people out there. Um, there's been accusations that you cheat. There's been accusations that you're online only or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, at ETS, I mean, I don't really know if that helped you. I mean, do you think ETS helped or hurt your image as a player, as like a LAN proven player? Did it hurt? Did it help? Was it a neutral event? Didn't really do much for you or against
I
you? What do you think?
I think it was kind of neutral. Like
Like you
I
didn't
just
completely
like
suck, but at the same
yeah,
time you
I
didn't.
didn't do horrible, but I didn't do amazing. I just kind of
Right.
like went neutral, like just neutral. Not much more to that. So it didn't really do anything. I guess it did stop some people calling me cheats, actually. That stopped a lot. People still call me online because that didn't really count as a LAN. It was just whatever. Um, like at ESEA LAN, if I do really good there, then I think everything's gonna stop. But ETS is kind of like nothing. It was just for fun. Went with some friends,
Mhm.
played for fun, casually.
Right.
I couldn't hear anything. I had the worst headset ever, and I was in the loudest spot of the LAN. And I heard that ESEA LAN is really quiet
Oh yeah, it
comparing
is.
to
Very
comparing to
calm.
ETS.
Very calm environment for sure.
ETS is crazy. I couldn't hear anything. I got snuck up on so many times.
Right.
So
So here's my question then: Is I mean, what are your thoughts on these accusations people have that you cheat or that you're online? I mean, because you're not the first person to deal with this, and you won't be
Mhm.
the last either.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what's your thoughts on these accusations, on these comments? Is there any credibility to them at all? Do you understand why people have these opinions, or do you think it's just bullshit? Like, what are your thoughts on these comments and accusations
I
and
think
such?
I think more of the comments are just trolls. I don't think they actually really mean it like they do when they don't kind of thing. It's more of a troll just to kind of get into your head. That's what it usually is. So if someone's calling you cheats, if someone's calling you online, just don't let it get to your head. That's all it really is. That's all they're trying to do. They don't actually care if you're online. They don't actually care if you cheat. Well, I guess if you do cheat, then yeah. But you know what I mean? It's just they're just trying to get in your head. So I don't really care about it.
What about the
Every
more like serious and like real accusations? Because there's been people that's been on the hype that have called you out. I
hmm
think Juvenile was one of them. So what about these actual more serious non-trolley like people actually really think that you are online only or cheat? I mean, do you have any response to what kind of response can you have? I guess you know what I mean. Like what
I
are your thoughts? You just don't care.
I don't care. I mean, I guess they're just delusional. I don't know.
Delusional, nice.
That's my thoughts on that. Like I got nothing.
So here's my question then: Is like I said, you're not the first person who has been accused.
hmm
Um, there was this like funny question that people talk about who like watch the hype regularly. It's like, what's your favorite color and what do you think about Mossbeck? Like trying to get people to comment on that situation because he is the other example of a player that received a lot of flack, went to ESEA LAN, didn't do so well, caught more flack, went to ESEA LAN again, still didn't do so well, caught even more flack. You know what I mean? Like he's been through
Yeah,
that
that's
vicious
rough.
cycle. I mean, how do you compare your situation to someone else like that? I mean, the only difference is you haven't even had really a chance to prove yourself on LAN yet.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how do you compare your situation to other people like that? And what do you think about their situation compared to yours?
Well, that sucks, honestly. Like I don't know what else to say besides it sucks. Like you said, I can't really say anything about it because I haven't really proved it. At ETS, I did all right, so it's not like I did horrible. I'm gonna have to prove it at ESEA LAN, but it just like it sucks. Like if that was to happen to me, I go to ESEA LAN, I go negative every single game, then it would that same thing would happen to me. They'd call me online.
Well, here's my question: is
It's
that really fair? Because let's compare this right now. So this is what's going to happen with you:
mhm,
is just like Mospec, his first LAN, Mospec only got to compete against two teams. That was NIP, the best team in the world, and then
mhm.
Complexity, the best team in North America at the time. You're going to go to ESEA LAN, and you guys are going to have to play, like, well, let's say all the EU teams show up. Like, let's just say, you know, you got NIP, you got Virtus Pro, you got Dignitas, and you got somebody else like a Navi or an LGB or something like that in that four slot. Let's just say that, right? So let's say, you know, you guys are probably going to be, what, number 2 seed unless you tank for the event. So that means you will play the first bracket round, but you'll play like the lowest seeded European team, which would probably be a Navi, an LGB, or a Dignitas based on like the current standings right now. Um, so your first match on LAN at ESEA LAN is going to be against like a top EU team, probably. Like hopefully that's what's going to happen. Like let's just hope. Let's be optimistic. That's what happens. So is that really going to be a fair litmus test of like how we should judge your LAN career? If your first LAN, your first match is up against a team like that, do you suspect you would be able to do as good against them as you do against North American teams? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Unlikely. Like there's no way I'm gonna go ham on NIP. You know, they just have the experience. They're just way better on land. They have all that experience, and it's not fair at all. Like for someone to like if I don't do that great at land, it's not really fair if I'm going up against NIP, Virtus Pro, all these teams who've been to so many lands. They have all this experience. They play every day. Like it's just not fair. I think I'll do all right. I don't see myself, going crazy.
Right. So I guess like it would basically your best chance would be playing against some other North American teams while you're there, like in like say the lower bracket or something. If you do get knocked down by a EU team, and that would kind of be your best
Yeah, like
situation.
I don't mind going against a Navi or a Team Dignitas even, but going against a NIP, maybe Virtus Pro, kind of going against a NIP would be kind of scary. But there's some teams where it might be manageable, but NIP it'd be something else. But yeah, it'd definitely be a lot easier if you just play the North American teams.
All right. So let's get off that. We're going to come back to this topic about lands and cheating and being online in a second. But I want to address some other topics again first, really quick. And so we already kind of talked about your stint in Main, but we kind of skipped over your transition to Exertus from the main division because we talked about ETS and then got into like land discussion stuff. So basically, how did you find yourself on Exertus? Like what was the deal? Like how did that happen?
Yeah. Let me try to rethink this because I don't even really remember. I was oh yeah, I do actually. I was still in Maine at the time, and just I was friends with Flom, Bluminator. I was friends with those guys, um, and we did a lot of matchmaking. We did a lot of pugs, and then as I was already on that main team, they were already kind of talking to me, saying like, we need a fifth, blah blah blah, and that we were still playing in playoffs at the time. So I was kind of like, maybe we'll do good in playoffs. Maybe we'll make invite ourselves. So I don't know if I'll join Exertus. So I kind of like, I was in a weird position because I didn't know if I should just get up and leave my team. I don't know how serious my team was going to be. And then I realized that my team isn't really, they don't really care too much. I'm talking about the main team. They didn't really care too much about CS. They just wanted to play casually. So I took up XTS and I was like, all right, I'll play, whatever. And there we just started practicing and started playing. And then that was the start to invite for me.
So why did that go so shitty? Like, why did that
What,
team not do well? Why did you wind up leaving? Like, why did that situation not work out, do you think, with Exertus?
like with Exertus? I then realized a couple matches later that even they don't want to take the game seriously. Um, like with the whole shots and Pinecone thing. I think Shots was only playing because Pinecone was. Like it just didn't feel like Pinecone and Shots really wanted to play like at a high level. It just all kind of seemed like they were all playing casually. We were practicing running strats, yeah, but that's just so we could kind of, you know, win some matches, do good. But it just they they just didn't care, I don't think. They didn't want to win really. They just wanted to kind of play. They didn't want to go to LAN or anything. So I just got an offer from MG and kind of took it.
I mean, do you feel it's still that way? Because I kind of talked to Flom in a post-game interview, and I kind of asked him a similar question. Why things weren't going so well for Exertus, um, and I brought up a question to him, and you can respond to this too. I wondered if the streaming thing like kind of took away from the team because you're streaming a lot. Flom's also was streaming a lot, and still is, I guess, and you still are
Mhm.
as well. Does this take away at all from like team practice and motivation to like take the game seriously if you kind of have this other, I don't want to say a conflicting like thing going on in your life, but it does take a lot of time. Do you feel like it ever hinders you, or do you feel like it hindered Exertus, or hinders you now with
No,
MG? No.
no, not at all. I mean, I still do it, right? Yeah,
Right.
if anything, it's better. I think personally. So I don't think it did anything. If
I
anything,
mean,
it helped.
so my question was be is like, so I know I guess a lot of times you stream like late night stuff, but I
Mhm.
used to stream during the day, like mornings and throughout the afternoon as
Yeah,
well. And Flom was the same way. He'd stream in the afternoon. So was there ever a situation where you guys felt like you got burnt out on Counter Strike during the
yeah,
day, and then you had to come practice it in the evening? Like, you know what I mean?
yeah. I guess now it's a little different because my schedule is weird. Like I go to bed and I wake up for practice. I'm awake for practice. I'm awake for matches. Like I'm on point at the time. But when I was streaming before with Flom, yeah, we'd wake up, in the morning, 10 in the morning, stream around then until practice, turn it off, play practice, then play the match. So yeah, that's a lot of CS in one day. That's like 12 hours. And 12 hours later, you get into your match and whatnot. So yeah, you could kind of be burnt out. So I guess it kind of did affect you a little bit there, but that shouldn't, you know, make you lose matches,
Right.
You shouldn't lose because of that.
So you would say that streaming isn't really an issue then
No,
for like team motivation and practice.
I don't think it
Okay.
really does much, no.
So outside of the whole pine cone shots, maybe not having the motivation to play, was there anything else that you think kind of contributed to Exertus not doing so well this season while you were on the team at least?
There was a lot of kind of pointless arguments and fighting as we were playing our matches and scrims, if I remember correctly. A lot of people were arguing at the time, which that never helps. You're playing a match and two people are arguing. That's pointless to do. And it's not like you're arguing about something um like sometimes there's a good kind of arguing. I don't really know how to explain it,
Right.
but it kind of like it helps you out when you argue about it. But it was just pointless arguing. Like it was just talking shit and whatnot, and that just doesn't really help. So that's part of it as well.
Right. All right. So here's my next question then before we get into like your play with MG right now, and this is a point that was brought up I think once again by Juvenile when I interviewed him. And it's a point that I kind of looked into a little bit, but I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to. But I feel maybe it is something. So when you were playing in main, like when you were playing with slow motion and stuff like that, um, like league stats wise, I feel like your ADR and stuff like that were like in the higher 90s, sometimes even like low 100. So I mean, it
Mhm.
was like really, really good. Like it was like incredible, basically, in most people's eyes. And I think this is why a lot of people were like, online only cheater, whatever, right? And then since you've been an invite with Exertus, maybe that wasn't really a fair situation, but your stats definitely did kind of tank a bit. And so far on MG, you're like the second rated player on their team behind Miniker, and you
Mhm.
average like almost 81 ADR. And I mean, you have a
Yeah.
pretty solid pos. Like I think you're like plus 40 something KD ratio. Um, do you feel like your skills or your stats or whatever has deteriorated over time from as an amateur player in main to now a professional player? Like, do you feel like you've lost something, like as far as how much damage you've been able to deal and things like that, or the impacts you've been able to
No.
make as a player?
Um not really. Like everyone always brings that up, but it's invite to me is really different. Like it's completely different. So when I got into invite, doing that stuff that I did in main, it just didn't work. So I had to completely change my play style. And that's probably why at the beginning of the season I did, poorly, I guess. I think I still did all right, but I didn't do as good as I did in main. And that's just because it's a different play style. Everyone plays different. It's just different CS. Um, so I just had to kind of learn a little bit. And then when I got on Mediocre Gamers is when I improved a lot, I would say. They kind of helped me out a little bit.
Right. So how did this Mediocre Gamers thing happen? You said they gave you an offer when you were playing with Exertus. So what went down there? How did that happen?
Um, it was basically dboorn. Dboorn was messaging me because Irukandji drew. He, I guess they needed a fifth. I don't know what was going on with Nafly. There was some weird stuff going on. I don't know if I think he didn't take the game seriously as well. You know, he was just playing for fun.
Hmm.
So they needed someone who was, wanted to take the game seriously. So they looked into me, even though I wasn't doing that good in XTS. I guess they said that they watched my stream and they saw that I have potential. They saw that I'm really good.
Right.
They could turn me into a good player.
Hmm.
So he pretty much convinced me. It was just a lot of Steam messaging back and forth, and he just kind of sold me on it. And then I was like, all right, you know what, I'll do it. And then I just kind of told XTS. I told a couple members before I was gonna leave.
Right.
I didn't just like get up and leave. I told them beforehand, like I'm like, all right, I'm looking into a new team, yada yada yada. So they have time to find a new fifth.
Right.
So they had a couple days, and then I was like, all right. And then I left, said some goodbyes, and then just joined the team.
So here's my question: like, you went from main team to Exertus down to MG. Have you always left on good terms, or is there like kind of heated like relationships now, or how has that been?
I feel like I left on good terms. I mean, I don't think any of the XTS guys hate me. I didn't like just get up and leave. I kind of
Right.
warned everyone about it, and so it was kind of not that bad. So I feel like we're still on good terms. I don't really talk to them anymore. We rarely ever match make or play any games together. That's probably because of my schedule, because I'm on a completely different schedule than Flom, because Flom still probably gets up in the morning and whatnot.
Hmm.
So I don't think it really had much of an effect. It just kind of, I guess they were maybe like disappointed, you know? They picked me up and then just I got up and left when shit was going bad. So it's kind of a little disappointing.
Right. So here's like kind of a two-part question I'm going to ask now. So the first is kind of like a general statement that some people have said or made in their opinions about you. So some people have made the criticism that this dude has really sick aim, but his game sense and map awareness maybe aren't quite there, and so maybe he just needs to kind of learn the game a bit better, like from a game sense perspective, and then he'll be like you even said earlier. I think they noticed from watching your stream that you had potential, right? But
Hmm.
that you could be polished more, basically, on
Yeah.
like your strategy and game sense and stuff. So my question would be is, part one, do you feel that that was kind of fair criticism? And then part two would be, do you think that working with experienced players like dboorn or Irukandji has helped you kind of learn the game better and take your game to the next level?
Yeah, that criticism was fair, definitely. Like I had that kind of raw aim. I did have some game sense. It wasn't anything too crazy. That stuff can kind of be taught as you
Right.
play with better players and play against better players. Um, so yeah, dboorn and Irukandji, they're amazing players. So they kind of playing with them. It's not like they kind of directly told me like what to do and how to. It's not like it wasn't like a lesson, you know. They didn't just like go over stuff with me. We just kind of played together, and then after watching them and just playing as a team, you kind of develop that. So it just that's kind of how it helped, and it got me a little bit better with the game sense and whatnot. I just didn't think my game sense was horrible when everyone was saying that. Everyone was saying like I was like awful game sense, but I didn't think it was too bad at the time. Everyone just kept saying it was bad.
Right.
It was actually kind of surprising.
Right. So here's my question: is like, how do you feel this team is, potential wise, as compared to teams that you've played in the past? I mean, do you feel like this is kind of your best case scenario situation to be successful as a professional player in North America? I mean, how are you feeling about this team and where you guys are at and where you're at?
I definitely feel good, but it's a good team. I feel like obviously iBuyPower is the top team. If I was to be on iBuyPower, that would be the best bet for me, but that's probably not going to happen. So this is kind of like the the best thing I got right now. But right now we have some weird kind of team drama that we kind of have to. I think we're going to fix that tonight. We're going to tonight. I don't even think we're going to be practicing. We're just going to try to fix some team drama. So there is some in-team drama that we're having when we play these matches and play these scrims. So
Right, I have a
If we
question
can,
about that then, actually. So you guys obviously had a roster transaction with Icy leaving
mhm.
and then Desi coming in. So I guess that is that part of it that you're
No,
talking?
that's
No, okay, that's
that's not
squashed.
part of it. Yeah,
Okay,
that's Desi's fine. Like it was a perfect replacement. They're almost like the same person.
right.
It's like their attitude and everything's pretty much the same. So that was fine. That transition was fine.
Okay.
It's just some other teammates kind of, as a whole, in a way, we all kind of suck together. We're all right, but we could definitely be better. So that's what we got to fix right now.
I mean, I guess you don't want to comment on it. That's kind of like inter-clan stuff, or
Yeah, it's yeah.
I mean,
We'll work on it.
do you feel like it's gonna be something that's like damaging to the team or like your future with ESEA LAN or such? Like, is your team like is it like in peril or is it you think it's
No,
something
no,
that can
it's
easily
not
work
that
through?
bad.
Okay.
It's just tiny stuff with every single person. I don't know. It's weird to explain. Even I don't really know. dboorn's kind of going over it.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Well, I wish you the best of luck on that, I guess. Um, so with that being said, um, why do you think you guys have been so successful this season since you've joined? Like, I mean, you guys have surpassed Cole and some of these other teams in standings so far, online results-wise. You guys had a win against iBuyPower, a win against Complexity. You've had some good games as well as against some of the other teams in the division also. I mean, why do you think you guys are doing so well?
To be honest, I think it's Irukandji. Drew, he's a really good in-game leader. He's kind of guiding us and leading us to victory a little bit.
Hmm.
The rest of us are just kind of following his orders and whatnot, and running his strats and running off of his calls. And he's pretty much what is kind of, I guess, winning these matches. He makes some pretty crazy in-game calls, which wins us some crazy rounds. But in general, all these matches have been pretty close. Like if you look at it, it's 16-13, 16-14, 16-12, 14-14, 14. Like they're all really close. So I
Yeah,
guess there is some luck in that as well.
right. It's like
Like,
Rotoderp actually made this comment that you guys may not be as posh as people might think because you
mhm,
barely are winning. I
yeah.
mean, granted, when you're getting close wins or losses to teams like iBuyPower or Cole or some of these other playoff contending teams like maybe a Netcode or something like that, yeah, I guess that somewhat makes sense, right? Like, it's not something to be too worried about. But when you're playing close games against Exertus team, Stream team, things like that, teams that aren't really playoff contenders, that can be kind of scary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think there is an issue there as far as that goes?
Yeah, that there is definitely an issue, and that's what we're going to be working on. That kind of brings me back to that point that we were talking about earlier. It's the same kind of thing. There's just some weird kind of drama that we have on the team, and it's not really working. We just got to fix that. So that's kind of the problem in each one of these matches. And we give up a lot of picks. If you watch those 16-14 matches, it's always one guy dying early, and then it's a 5v4 every single time. So we're not as polished as some people, think. We need a lot of work.
So, with that being said, I mean, how do you think the rest of your season will go? I mean, at this point, you'd have to. I don't think there's a way you miss LAN unless you lose every single match you have left,
I think even if we lose, we'll still probably make it.
right?
Um,
So,
and it's
but what do you think about your matches coming up? I mean, how do you think you're going to close out the season? Are you guys going to finish strong before LAN? Do you think you have some issues ahead? I mean, what do you think?
I think we'll finish strong. We'll probably win out at least three of these. We probably might lose one. I'm not really sure against two. Maybe netcode. Actually, maybe even U5 because we have a U5 match. I forgot about that. It's a tie right now. So
Yeah,
yeah, we got four matches left. I think we'll end pretty strong. I don't think we're gonna lose out.
I mean, you're home team against United 5 on Nuke, so that's probably a good situation to be in. And then you guys play Reliable Gaming, which is kind of a wild card team that could really go either way, I guess. And you had Team Stream Team, which theoretically should be a win for you guys, but it was
You never know.
16-14 last time we
Yeah.
played. So, yeah, exactly. You never know. And then you have, like you said, netcode. So, I mean, basically, for all intents and purposes, you feel pretty comfortable that you're going to make it to ESEA LAN.
hmm Definitely.
So, with that being said, like, kind of what's your outlook on how do you think you and your team will be able to do at this event? And this kind of goes back to stuff we've already talked about before with, cheating accusations, online only, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, you're going to be heading into ESEA LAN. How do you think your team fares?
I don't see us winning the LAN. I see us placing, all right, maybe fourth, somewhere around there, fourth, fifth. I don't see us getting top two. That's just unlikely. We're going up against, the best teams, NIP, Virtus Pro. It's going to be rough. They just have way more experience. But I think overall, the whole LAN is going to help our team in general. Just because from what I heard, playing against European players it's like a whole other level. And you learn so much. Like all these strats that would work on NA teams, just you get to figure out what's actually wrong with them when you play the European teams. So I think that weekend, or I think it's a weekend, is going to really help us as a team. I don't see us placing too great, but it's going to definitely help for the next season coming up.
Right. So, I mean, with that being said, going into this event, people have already said that your stats have kind of declined. People have, made these accusations about you that we've already addressed. I mean, when you're going into ESEA LAN as a player, are you at all concerned or worried about, whether or not your online performance and Invite this season is going to translate well to the LAN setting? Is that a concern of yours personally? Is it a concern of the team? What are your thoughts on these things?
It's not really a concern. Even when I went to ETS, it wasn't a concern. Like even if I do just fail completely, I'm the kind of person that's not going to really care. So I'm not going to take it to heart if people talk shit. That just kind of like I just ignore all that shit. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't really do anything. So like even when I went to ETS, I was pretty comfortable. Like in the long run, when you go to a LAN, I only been to ETS, but when you get there, you're still just playing CS. Like nothing changes. I mean, yeah, sure, you got people watching you, but when you're actually playing CS, you don't even know that anyone's watching you. You have no idea what's going on around you. So I think it'll be fine. I'm not worried about it at all.
Okay. So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, you're kind of one of the stats leaders on your team. So, I mean, how crucial do you think your individual performance is on your team's success, like at ESEA LAN?
At ESEA LAN, we're definitely going to need it, I think. Like, I'm going to need to, hit some shots because the European teams are rough. So it will be kind of crucial. We're all going to have to be on point. Even if I'm just on point, that's not going to be good enough. We're all going to have to be on point. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be kind of crucial.
So, what do you think is the future of your team? I mean, does this LAN kind of play a role in like the future of your team and the roster and stuff like that going into next season? I mean, is the
hmm
future of the team dependent upon your performance at this event, or do you think you guys are pretty stable regardless of what happens? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're pretty stable, no matter what happens. If we completely fail and place last, no one's gonna quit. Like, I think my team is expecting to place last. Like, that's just kind of like they have no experience. Nobody has experience on this team in a CSGO LAN except for me and Desi. We went to ETS. Desi's been, I think, to a couple LANs. Irukandji, dboorn, Mediocre, they haven't been to a single CSGO LAN. I mean, I know they've been to 1.6 LANs and whatnot, but it's still a different game. But I don't think it's going to change. If we lose out, I think everyone's still going to, no one's going to back out. No one's going to get kicked.
Right.
I mean, maybe someone might back out. Who knows? You never really know. But I think it should be fine.
Right. So here's my question then: so who do you think is going to make it to ESEA LAN first? I mean, I guess you and I by Power are pretty much locked in, but
Yeah.
if you had to predict, who do you think those other two spots will go to?
I'm going to assume it's going to be netcode and complexity, personally. At least I'm hoping complexity makes it. I really hope they make it. I would love to meet all those guys on LAN.
Cool. So what do you think it does for the scene if Cole doesn't make it? Does that how much does that hurt the NA scene if a team like that is unable to qualify?
I don't think it'll necessarily hurt the NA scene. It'll just be surprising, more or less. I don't think it'll really hurt anything. It would suck for complexity, but in the long run, no one's gonna think less of them.
Do
It
you think
happens.
that roster stability is dependent upon making the LAN or not making the LAN? Like if they make the LAN, I guess they'll be okay. But if they don't make it, do you think that that team could suffer stability issues based on that?
I'd hope not. I mean, it's I don't see anything wrong with them. I highly doubt they see anything wrong with them. I don't know. I mean, I guess they are losing matches, so maybe, but I don't actually know. I'm not, I'm not on the team. I don't know what's going
Right.
on, but I'd hope nothing happens.
So after ESEA lands over, at the end of the day, let's say you do. You have two routes. You either do pretty well. Well, I guess there's like three routes you could take, right? One you do like really amazing, which would be
Hmm.
awesome. And then one would be like kind of like ETS, maybe it's kind of neutral. Like you didn't do amazing, but you didn't completely fail, so you're kind of in the same boat. And then you have the third option where you like completely tank and you go horribly negative and your team places last or something, and it doesn't look good, like I guess on your resume or whatever.
Hmm.
Either way, so considering all these different potential routes, what do you think your future in CS is going to be, taking all those and things into account?
Um, I, to be honest, I don't really know. I mean, I have specific goals, but I can't really I can't predict the future. I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm hoping that I'll do all right, and like the plan is to at least make it to an international land. Like that's my goal. That's what I'm dedicating this to, trying to make an international land. Whether or not you do good there, I mean, it matters, but at the same time, I just want to get there, get to that level. Um, but yeah, like I can't really predict the future. I don't really know.
Right. I hear you. So with that being said, guys.